They ruled this planet for 165 million years. Humans have existed for less than 300,000. For most of Earth's history, we weren't even here, but they were. Towering above forests that stretched from pole to pole. Shaking the ground with every step, hunting, breeding, surviving. The dinosaurs weren't just animals. They were the dominant form of life on Earth. And they never saw it coming. Somewhere beyond Mars, in the cold darkness between worlds, a piece of rock drifted through space. It had been doing this for billions of years, silently, patiently. It was 6 miles wide. To put that in perspective, Manhattan is only 2.5 miles long. This rock could swallow it whole. It weighed more than 1 trillion tons, and it was moving at 45,000 miles per hour. Nothing on Earth could stop it. Not because we didn't have the technology. We didn't exist yet. But even if we did, even with everything we know now, we couldn't have stopped it. This wasn't a disaster. It was physics. The asteroid had been nudged, pulled, tugged by the gravity of Jupiter over millions of years until its orbit shifted just enough, just slightly. And suddenly it was no longer drifting. It was falling toward us. In the final weeks before impact, something strange appeared in the sky. At first, it might have looked like a new star, bright, unmoving, but night after night it grew larger, brighter. The dinosaurs had no concept of what it was, no language to describe it, but some part of them, some ancient survival instinct buried deep in their brains, might have felt it. Something was wrong. The sky was changing, and there was nowhere to run. On the day it arrived, the asteroid crossed the threshold of Earth's atmosphere in less than 2 seconds. It didn't slow down. It didn't break apart. It simply fell at 11 miles per second. The impact site was what we now call the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, a warm, shallow sea surrounded by lush forests and rivers. Dinosaurs walked the shorelines. Pterosaurs soared overhead. It was a paradise. And then the sky turned white. The moment the asteroid hit, the energy released was beyond comprehension. 10 billion times the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Released instantly. The ground didn't crack, it vaporized. Rock, water, limestone. Everything within 100 miles turned into superheated plasma in less than a second. The temperature at the impact site reached hotter than the surface of the sun. If you were standing 500 miles away, you would have been blinded instantly. Not by the explosion, by the light. A light so bright it burned shadows into stone. The shockwave came next. Imagine every earthquake that has ever happened on Earth, compressed into a single moment and released all at once. The entire planet rang like a bell. Seismic waves rippled outward at supersonic speed, tearing through the crust, fracturing fault lines on the opposite side of the world. Mountains shook, valleys collapsed. And then, the air itself caught fire. The heat from the impact was so intense that it ignited the atmosphere. For thousands of miles in every direction, forests exploded into flames. Not from falling debris, from the air itself becoming too hot to breathe. Animals didn't suffocate, they cooked. Within the first 10 minutes, everything within 1,000 miles of the impact was dead. But this was only the beginning. The asteroid had punched a hole 15 miles deep into the Earth's crust. Trillions of tons of vaporized rock were thrown into the atmosphere at escape velocity. Some of it, left the planet entirely. But most of it went up, and what goes up must come down. Within an hour, the sky above the entire Western Hemisphere turned black, not from smoke, from molten rock. Billions of fragments, each one glowing red-hot, began to rain back down onto the surface. Imagine standing under a meteor shower. Now imagine every meteor is the size of a car, and they're everywhere. The oceans boiled. The forests that hadn't already burned were set ablaze. The air became unbreathable. Ash and sulfur choked the sky. And then came the tsunamis. The impact had displaced trillions of gallons of water in an instant. Waves over 300 feet high radiated outward in all directions, traveling at the speed of a jetliner. They didn't just wash over coastlines, they erased them. Entire ecosystems were scoured clean. Reefs, estuaries, river deltas, gone. By the end of the first day, half the planet was on fire. But it gets worse. The debris cloud ejected into the atmosphere didn't just fall back down. It spread. Within weeks, it had encircled the entire globe. A thick blanket of ash, soot, and vaporized rock blocked out the sun. The temperature spiked first. The greenhouse effect from all the vaporized material caused global temperatures to rise by 20 degrees in a matter of days. And then it dropped. Without sunlight, the Earth began to freeze. Photosynthesis stopped. Plants began to die. Not all at once. Slowly, over months, then years. And when the plants died, the herbivores starved. And when the herbivores starved, the carnivores followed. This is what killed the dinosaurs. Not the impact itself, not the fires, not the tsunamis. Starvation. The largest animals died first. A Tyrannosaurus Rex needed to eat hundreds of pounds of meat every week just to survive. But there was no meat. The herds were gone. The forests were ash. They wandered through a dead world, growing weaker with each passing day. Some might have turned to scavenging, eating the remains of their own kind. But even that wouldn't last. Within a year, most of the large dinosaurs were dead. Within a decade, they were extinct. But not everything died. In burrows beneath the surface, small mammals huddled together in the darkness. They had evolved to survive on scraps, on seeds, on insects, and they waited. Birds, the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, clung to life in the few forests that remained. Their ability to fly allowed them to search for food across vast distances. Amphibians survived in the mud. Crocodiles, already ancient even then, endured in the rivers. Fungi thrived. They didn't need sunlight. They fed on death itself. Life didn't choose who survived. There was no plan, no fairness. The survivors were simply the ones small enough, adaptable enough, or lucky enough to make it through. And slowly, over millions of years, the Earth healed. The skies cleared, the sun returned. Plants began to grow again. And in the absence of the dinosaurs, new creatures emerged. Mammals, once small and insignificant, began to diversify, to grow, to adapt. One lineage would eventually stand upright, develop tools, language, consciousness, us. The dinosaurs didn't fail. They didn't make a mistake. They weren't weak. They were simply alive at the wrong time. And in the end, that's all it takes. One rock, one moment, one impact, and an entire world changes. The dinosaurs are gone. But their story isn't over. It lives on in every bird that sings at dawn, in every fossil we uncover, in every question we ask about where we came from. They didn't end life. They made room for it. And from their extinction, our story begins.